I, Alpha Tristan, reject you as Luna. Celeste will take your place.
The entire pack had gathered beneath the silver banners of Blackstone Keep. Torches burned against the night. Warriors lined both sides of the Great Hall. Elders stood silently around the moon altar. Every eye was fixed on one woman, Vivian Ashwood. She stood in the center of the hall wearing the white ceremonial dress reserved for a future Luna. Her hands trembled, not because she feared becoming Luna, because something inside her wolf wouldn't stop warning her.
Run.
Across from her stood Alpha Tristan Blackwood.
Tall.
Powerful. The man the moon goddess herself had chosen as her mate. The man Vivian had loved since childhood. The man who had sworn, only 3 nights ago, that nothing would ever come between them. He wouldn't even look at her. Instead, his cold voice echoed through the hall. I reject Vivian Ashwood as my fated mate. Silence crashed over the gathering. No one breathed. No one moved. Even the fire seemed to shrink. Vivian stared at him, unable to understand what she'd heard. What did you say? Tristan finally met her eyes. There wasn't a trace of regret. I reject you before this pack. Gasps spread through the crowd. Someone dropped a ceremonial staff. An elder whispered a prayer beneath his breath. Vivian's knees nearly gave way. No. Her voice barely existed. You can't. I can. His words landed harder than any blade. I refuse to bind my future to a weak wolf. The room erupted with whispers. Weak. Did he really say that? In front of everyone? Vivian's wolf howled inside her soul. Not from rejection. From disbelief. Only yesterday Tristan had held her hand beneath the moonlight. He'd promised their future. Now he was destroying her before everyone she'd ever known. She searched his face, looking for hesitation, for pain, for anything. There was nothing. Then another pair of footsteps echoed across the stone floor. A woman emerged wearing crimson silk, long golden hair, perfect posture, a smile that belonged to someone who had already won. Celeste Ravenwood, the daughter of the richest alpha in the Northern Alliance. She walked directly to Tristan. Without asking permission, she slipped her hand into his. The entire hall froze again. Vivian felt her heart stop. Celeste smiled sweetly. It seems, she said softly, everyone knows where the future alpha's heart truly belongs. The whispers became louder. They've been together? Since when? Did he choose another woman? Vivian couldn't hear anymore. Everything blurred. Every promise. Every dream. Every memory. Shattered within seconds. She forced herself to speak. So. Her voice cracked. That was the reason? Tristan didn't deny it. Our union benefits the pack. The words felt rehearsed. Cold. Calculated. Celeste leaned against his shoulder. You should be grateful. Vivian blinked. What? You were never suited to stand beside an alpha. Several nobles laughed. Not loudly. Just enough. Enough for Vivian to hear. Enough to leave scars. She looked toward the elders. None of them intervened. She looked toward her aunt. The woman lowered her eyes. She looked toward her closest friends. They stepped backward, one by one, as though rejection could spread like disease. Her chest tightened. This wasn't only Tristan abandoning her. The entire pack had decided she no longer belonged. One elder finally spoke. The bond has not yet been severed. Tristan's jaw tightened. I know the ritual. The elder continued carefully. Once you speak the final words, the pain cannot be undone. I don't care. Vivian's breath caught. He didn't care. After everything, he didn't care. Tristan raised his head. His voice rang across the hall. From this moment forward, suddenly, a violent gust swept through the chamber. Every torch flickered. The moon altar glowed for one heartbeat. Then darkness swallowed the light. Everyone turned. What was that? The altar reacted. It never reacts. Vivian pressed a hand against her chest. Her wolf had gone completely silent. Not dead. Listening. Waiting. Then the strange sensation vanished as quickly as it came. The light returned. Nobody understood what had happened. Except one man. Standing near the throne. Former Alpha Dominic Blackwood. Tristan's father. He hadn't spoken once since the ceremony began. But now, his sharp eyes rested on Vivian. Not with pity, with shock. As though he'd recognized something impossible. His fingers slowly tightened around the carved wolf head cane in his hand. For the first time that night, fear crossed his face. Tristan ignored the interruption. He stepped closer. The moon goddess made a mistake. Those words echoed through the sacred hall. Several elders gasped. One nearly stumbled backward. No alpha spoke against the moon goddess without consequence. Dominic's voice finally broke the silence. Choose your next sentence carefully. His tone wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The room instantly quieted. Tristan bowed his head only slightly. Father, I gave you an instruction. I know exactly what I'm doing. Dominic studied his son for several seconds. Something about Tristan's confidence unsettled him. Not because Tristan sounded certain, because someone else seemed to be guiding every decision. Dominic slowly turned toward Celeste. She smiled politely. Too politely. Like someone performing kindness rather than feeling it. He noticed something else. A silver pendant resting against her throat. His expression darkened. He had seen that symbol once before. Years ago. On the neck of a woman who had nearly started a war between three packs. Before he could speak, Celeste subtly covered the pendant with her hand. Almost as if she knew he'd recognized it. Dominic said nothing. But another question settled into his mind. Who had given her that necklace? Vivian could barely remain standing. Each breath hurt. The mate bond still connected her to Tristan. She could feel his heartbeat, his strength, his emotions. Or rather, the lack of them. Nothing. No guilt. No sorrow. Only determination. How could someone erase years of love overnight? She searched her memories. Had she missed the signs? Every smile now felt false. Every promise sounded hollow. Had he ever loved her? Or had she simply believed what she wanted to believe? Her wolf finally whispered. Something isn't right. Vivian frowned. What do you mean? This isn't only rejection. Before Vivian could ask another question, a deep voice interrupted. Finish it. It came from Elder Magnus, the oldest member of the council. His weathered face carried unusual concern. If you're certain, Tristan nodded. I am. Magnus looked directly at Vivian. For just a moment, his eyes held apology. Then he stepped aside. The ceremony continued. Tristan lifted his right hand. I reject Vivian Ashwood. Pain exploded through her chest. It felt as though invisible claws were tearing through her soul. She cried out. Several women in the crowd turned away. Even hardened warriors couldn't watch. The rejection ritual wasn't merely symbolic. It wounded both wolves. Yet Tristan never flinched. He spoke the final words without hesitation. And I release her from every promise between us. The bond snapped. Vivian collapsed to her knees. A cry escaped her lips before she could stop it. The pain wasn't only physical. It was the unbearable emptiness left behind. Her wolf curled into silence. The great hall echoed with nothing except her ragged breathing. Celeste smiled. Very few noticed. One man did. Dominic. And the look in his eyes suggested he had just witnessed the beginning of a catastrophe. As Vivian struggled to rise from the cold stone floor, an ancient symbol hidden beneath the moon altar suddenly began to glow beneath her feet, a symbol that had remained dormant for over 200 years. Only Dominic saw it appear, and the horror on his face revealed one terrifying truth. He knew exactly what it meant. Vivian struggled to breathe. The agony of the broken mate bond still rippled through every part of her body. Her ears rang. Her vision blurred. The voices around her faded into a distant murmur. Then she noticed it. A faint silver light spread beneath her knees. It wasn't coming from the torches. It wasn't moonlight. It was rising from the ancient stone beneath the moon altar. At first, only a thin line appeared. Then another. Within seconds, dozens of glowing markings stretched across the floor, weaving together into a magnificent crest that no one in the younger generation had ever seen. The whispers stopped. One by one, heads turned toward the floor. What is that? I've never seen those markings. The altar is awakening. Elder Magnus staggered backward. His face lost all color. No. His voice trembled. It cannot be. Dominic took one slow step forward. His heart pounded against his ribs. After nearly 30 years, the ancient seal had awakened again. Only one bloodline could trigger it.
One.
No one else. Vivian looked down in confusion. What is happening? No one answered. Instead, every elder exchanged frightened glances. Each of them seemed to recognize the symbol. None of them wanted to explain it. Celeste frowned. For the first time that evening, her perfect smile vanished. She leaned toward Tristan. What are they staring at? I don't know. His confidence wavered. Something about the atmosphere had changed. Only moments ago, everyone had looked at Vivian with pity.
Now,
Many stared with uncertainty, others with fear. Dominic finally spoke. The ceremony is over. His voice echoed across the hall. Everyone will leave. Several nobles hesitated. But Alpha. I said leave. Nobody argued. When Dominic gave an order, even seasoned warriors obeyed. The crowd slowly dispersed, but they didn't stop talking. Did you see the altar? Why did the elders look terrified? Who is Vivian? Questions spread through Blackstone keep faster than wildfire. No one had answers.
Yet.
Vivian forced herself to stand. Her legs shook violently. She turned toward the exit. Every step felt heavier than the last. She wanted only one thing: to disappear. As she passed Tristan, he didn't even glance at her. Instead, he spoke quietly to Celeste. We'll announce our engagement tomorrow. Vivian froze. Tomorrow? Less than a day after rejecting her. The wound inside her opened again. Celeste noticed. She smiled. You should thank him. Vivian slowly turned. For what? For ending something that never belonged together. Vivian studied her face. There was no kindness, only satisfaction. She nodded once. Not because she agreed. Because she realized arguing would change nothing. Without another word, she continued walking. That should have been the end. But Celeste couldn't resist. Oh. Vivian stopped again. I almost forgot. Celeste stepped closer until only inches separated them. I'll be sleeping in the Alpha's chamber tonight. Several servants overheard. A few lowered their heads in embarrassment. Others waited for Vivian to react. She didn't. Not immediately. Instead, she looked directly into Celeste's eyes. You worked very hard for this. Celeste's smile widened. I certainly did. So enjoy it. Vivian's calm reply caught everyone off guard. Because people who steal happiness rarely keep it. For the first time, Celeste's expression hardened. Vivian walked away before another word could be spoken. Dominic watched everything. Something about Vivian's composure disturbed him more than tears would have. She hadn't threatened revenge. She hadn't begged. She had simply accepted the pain. That wasn't weakness. It was the kind of strength built through years of silent suffering. Late that night, rain fell over Blackstone Keep. Vivian sat alone beside the small lake beyond the training grounds. She hugged her knees. The cold didn't matter. Nothing mattered anymore. Her wolf remained silent. The absence frightened her. Since childhood, her wolf had always answered.
Now.
Nothing. Footsteps approached. She didn't bother looking up. If you're here to tell me how sorry you are, she whispered. Don't. The footsteps stopped. A familiar voice answered. I didn't come to offer pity. Vivian lifted her head. Dominic stood beneath a black cloak, rain sliding from his shoulders. She quickly stood. Former Alpha. You don't have to bow. It's a habit. He studied her carefully. She looked exhausted. Not broken. There was a difference. You should be inside. So should you. A faint smile appeared on Dominic's face. You've always been honest.
She sighed.
I don't know how to pretend anymore. For a long moment, neither spoke. The rain filled the silence. Finally, Dominic asked, When did your mother die? Vivian blinked. The question caught her completely off guard. I was 5. And your father? I never knew him. Dominic lowered his eyes. Exactly as he feared. Someone had erased the truth before she was old enough to remember. Did your mother ever leave you anything? Vivian frowned.
Why?
A letter.
No.
A necklace?
No.
A family crest? She slowly shook her head. I had nothing except an old silver bracelet. Dominic's eyes widened. Where is it? She looked down. I lost it years ago. Dominic became unusually quiet.
Lost?
Or taken. There was a difference. A dangerous difference. Inside the Alpha's private chamber, Celeste poured wine into 2 crystal glasses. Tristan stood near the balcony. His thoughts refused to settle. You've hardly spoken. I'm thinking. About Vivian? He didn't answer. Celeste walked beside him. You made the right choice. I know. Yet his voice lacked conviction. She slipped an arm around his waist. Our alliance will strengthen your rule.
It will.
So, why do you look unhappy? He stared toward the forest. I expected her to fight. Celeste laughed softly. You wanted drama? I wanted. He stopped himself. Wanted what? Tears? Begging? Anger? Instead, Vivian had walked away with quiet dignity. For some reason, that unsettled him more than if she had screamed. Celeste noticed his hesitation. A flicker of annoyance crossed her face before disappearing. She reached into her sleeve. Hidden there was a tiny glass vial filled with dark blue liquid. She stared at it for a second, then smiled. Don't worry, she whispered to herself. Soon you won't remember her at all. She slipped the vial back into her sleeve before Tristan turned around. He never saw it, but someone else did. Outside the chamber window, a hooded figure watched everything from the shadows. And the stranger wasn't spying on Tristan. The stranger was watching Celeste. As the hooded figure disappeared into the rain, a single sentence echoed in the darkness. She used the same potion just as her mother did 25 years ago. The hooded figure moved soundlessly through the rain. Within moments, they reached the abandoned watchtower overlooking Blackstone Keep. A lantern flickered inside. Someone was already waiting. You saw it, the old man asked. The stranger lowered the hood. It was Gareth, captain of the former Alpha's personal guard. A man everyone believed had retired years earlier. I saw enough. And Gareth's face hardened. Lady Celeste carries dream shade. The old man's grip tightened around his walking stick. You are certain? I watched her hide the vial. Silence settled between them.
Dream shade.
A rare potion forbidden across every allied pack. It didn't force love. It clouded judgment. It dulled instincts. It made lies sound like truth. The old man closed his eyes. If she's using dream shade, then Alpha Tristan has been making choices with a poisoned mind. Neither man spoke again, because one question mattered more than any other. Who had supplied the potion? Meanwhile, Vivian packed the few belongings she still owned. Her room had never been large. A wooden bed, a small wardrobe, several books, a faded blanket her mother had stitched by hand. Nothing that belonged to a future Luna. Only memories. She folded the blanket carefully before placing it inside a worn leather bag. A soft knock interrupted her. Come in. The door opened. Mira entered quietly. Vivian blinked. Her oldest friend hadn't spoken to her during the ceremony. She had looked away like everyone else. Now guilt covered her face. I'm sorry. Vivian continued packing. For what? I should have stood beside you. You didn't. I know. You made your choice. Mira lowered her head. I was afraid. Vivian nodded. I believe you. The answer surprised Mira. You aren't angry? Vivian paused. I was. She looked around the room. But anger becomes heavy after a while. Myra's eyes filled with tears. I failed you. You failed yourself. The words struck harder than shouting ever could. Mira stepped closer. I want to help. Vivian finally looked at her. Then answer one question. Anything. When did Tristan change? Mira hesitated. Too long. Vivian noticed. You know something. Mira struggled to find the courage. About 3 months ago. What happened? He started meeting people outside the pack. What people? I never saw their faces. Why didn't you tell me? I thought it was politics. She swallowed hard. And then Lady Celeste arrived. Vivian remained silent. Mira continued. Everything changed after that.
How?
He stopped listening to the elders. He dismissed experienced warriors. He began making decisions no one understood. Vivian frowned. Did anyone question him? His father did. And they argued constantly. Another piece of the puzzle fell into place. Something had happened long before the rejection. Something much larger than a broken relationship. Across the fortress, Dominic unlocked a chamber no one had entered in years. Dust covered every shelf. Ancient scrolls filled the walls. Family records dating back centuries rested inside carved wooden cabinets. He lit another candle, then searched. One shelf, another. Finally, he found it. A weathered journal wrapped in blue leather. The handwriting belonged to his grandfather. Dominic turned directly to the marked page. His eyes scanned the faded ink. Then they stopped. No. His voice barely escaped. According to the journal, the moon altar awakened only under one condition. When a direct descendant of the first Luna entered the sacred circle after suffering an unjust rejection. Dominic looked toward the window. Rain still fell outside. His heartbeat quickened. Vivian wasn't simply an ordinary she-wolf. She carried the oldest bloodline ever blessed by the moon goddess. A bloodline believed extinct for generations. If the journal was correct, rejecting her hadn't weakened the Blackwood family. It had endangered every wolf under their protection. Elsewhere, Tristan couldn't sleep. He left his chamber before sunrise. Training usually cleared his thoughts. Today it didn't. Every swing of his sword felt heavier. Every strike lacked focus. His beta, Rowan, watched from nearby. Finally he spoke. You've missed the target 6 times. I wasn't counting. I was. Tristan lowered his sword. What do you want? The truth. You already know it.
No.
Rowan crossed his arms. I know what happened. I don't know why. Tristan's patience thinned. My reasons are my own. Are they? The question lingered. Rowan had fought beside Tristan since childhood. He recognized every expression, every hesitation, every lie. You loved her. I did. So what changed? Tristan opened his mouth. Nothing came out. He searched for an answer. An image appeared in his mind. Celeste smiling. Then another. Vivian laughing beside the river months earlier. The memories collided. His head suddenly throbbed. He grabbed the side of his face. Rowan stepped forward. Tristan, I'm fine. No, you're not. The headache disappeared as quickly as it had arrived. Tristan frowned. Why couldn't he remember when he had stopped loving Vivian? There should have been a reason, a moment, an argument, anything. Instead, his memories felt strangely blurred, as though someone had erased pages from a book. Far beyond Blackstone Keep, a black carriage rolled through the mountain pass. Inside sat an elderly woman wrapped in silver robes. Her eyes remained closed, until suddenly, she inhaled sharply. The carriage stopped. Her attendants looked inside. High Seer. She slowly opened glowing silver eyes. The first Luna's blood has awakened. The attendants exchanged confused looks. That's impossible. So everyone believed. She reached for an ancient staff resting beside her. We're changing course. To where? Blackstone. What happened there? The High Seer stared toward the distant mountains. A foolish alpha has made a decision that may reshape every pack on this continent. Back at the fortress, Vivian finished packing. There wasn't much left. She lifted her bag. Before reaching the door, someone knocked again. She expected Mira. Instead, Dominic stood outside. His expression was calm, but his eyes carried urgency. I need to ask you something. Vivian stepped aside. He entered. His gaze settled on the old blanket lying across the bed. Something caught his attention. A small stitched pattern in one corner. He froze. Carefully, he picked it up. His fingers traced the faded embroidery. A crescent moon surrounded by 12 tiny stars. His breathing slowed. He had seen this symbol only once before. 25 years earlier. Wrapped around a newborn child. He looked at Vivian. Where did your mother get this blanket? Vivian answered without hesitation. She made it herself. Dominic's face drained of color, because he suddenly realized that wasn't possible. Dominic stared at the blanket in disbelief before whispering words that would change Vivian's life forever. Your mother could never have made this, because this pattern was sewn by the royal Luna who disappeared before you were born. Dominic's voice barely rose above a whisper. Where did your mother tell you she came from? Vivian looked at him, puzzled. She never spoke much about her past. Nothing at all. She only said we had to keep moving. Why? She believed someone was searching for us. Dominic's eyes narrowed. Did she ever tell you who? Vivian slowly shook her head. Whenever I asked, she would change the subject. He looked down at the blanket again. His hands tightened. Every thread confirmed what his grandfather's journal had suggested. The embroidery wasn't ordinary. It was the work of the Royal Moon Court. Only one family had ever used that pattern. Only one. Yet that family had vanished almost 26 years ago. The official story claimed they had all died in a fire. Dominic had never believed it.
Now,
He had proof that someone had survived, and that someone was standing in front of him. Vivian watched him carefully. You know something? Dominic didn't answer immediately. Instead, he folded the blanket with surprising care and handed it back. There are things I need to confirm first. About me? About everyone. His words left her even more confused. I don't understand. You will. When? Soon. He turned toward the door. Until then, trust no one. She frowned. Not even you? Dominic stopped. A faint smile touched his face. That's the smartest answer you've given tonight. Then he walked away. Vivian stood alone, staring at the closed door. Her life had collapsed only hours earlier. Now strangers were hinting that everything she believed about herself was a lie. Which truth hurt more? Being rejected? Or never knowing who she really was? The following morning, Blackstone Keep buzzed with excitement. Servants rushed through the corridors. Musicians arrived from neighboring packs. The kitchens worked without pause. Colorful banners replaced the white decorations meant for Vivian's Luna ceremony. Gold and crimson now covered every wall. A celebration had been announced. Not for a new Luna, for Alpha Tristan's engagement to Celeste. The speed shocked even loyal members of the pack. In quiet corners, people whispered, "Isn't this too soon?" The rejection happened yesterday. I've never seen anything like it. Others defended the Alpha. He must have had his reasons. Political alliances come first. Feelings don't protect a pack. No one noticed that fewer voices sounded convinced than before. Doubt had begun spreading through Blackstone. Inside the council chamber, Tristan addressed the elders. Our alliance with the Ravenwood pack will strengthen trade routes and border security. Most remained silent. Only Elder Magnus spoke. No one questions the alliance. Tristan folded his arms. Then what's the problem? The timing. It cannot wait. Magnus held his gaze. Or someone doesn't want it to wait. A tense silence followed. Celeste stood beside Tristan, perfectly composed. You seem suspicious, Elder. I've lived long enough to respect instinct. She smiled. And what does your instinct tell you? That this story began long before yesterday. Her smile never faded. But inside, a flicker of concern appeared. The old man was asking dangerous questions. Outside the chamber, Rowan caught up with Dominic. I've never seen the council divided like this. Dominic continued walking. You'll see worse before this ends. You know what's happening. I know pieces. Then tell me. Dominic stopped beneath an ancient oak tree. Answer something first. Rowan nodded. When did Tristan stop trusting his own instincts? Rowan frowned. I can't say exactly. Try. It was after the Midwinter Summit. Dominic looked toward the mountains. Exactly as he'd suspected. The summit. The first time Tristan met Celeste. The first time Ravenwood advisors entered Blackstone territory. Too many coincidences. Far too many. Meanwhile, Celeste sat alone in her private room. She opened an ornate wooden box hidden beneath her bed. Inside rested several tiny crystal bottles. Each contained a different colored liquid.
Blue.
Silver. Black. She picked up the nearly empty blue vial. A satisfied smile crossed her face. It won't be needed much longer. She reached for another bottle. This one held silver liquid that shimmered unnaturally. Before she could uncork it, a knock sounded. She quickly hid the box. "Come in." Her personal maid entered. "My lady, a messenger has arrived." "From where?" "The Ravenwood estate." Celeste dismissed the maid before breaking the seal. She unfolded the letter. Her father's handwriting covered the page. She read quickly, then stopped. The confidence disappeared from her face. Only one sentence mattered. "The former Alpha has started investigating. Eliminate the girl before he discovers the truth." For the first time, Celeste looked genuinely frightened. At the edge of the forest, Vivian stood beside her mother's grave. Simple, unmarked, hidden beneath a towering willow tree. She knelt quietly. "I wish you were here." The wind answered. "Nothing more." She placed fresh wildflowers beside the stone. "So many people seem to know who you were." A tear rolled down her cheek. "But you never told me." She closed her eyes. "I don't even know what questions to ask anymore." Suddenly, her wolf stirred. Not with words, with warning. Someone was nearby. Vivian stood. She looked around. Nothing. Only trees swaying in the breeze. She relaxed. Then, a sharp whistle cut through the air. Instinct made her move. An arrow struck the tree exactly where her head had been a heartbeat earlier. She spun toward the forest. Another arrow flew.
She ducked.
A third followed almost immediately. Someone wasn't trying to frighten her. Someone wanted her dead. Vivian ran. Branches whipped against her face as she sprinted deeper into the woods. Behind her, footsteps crashed through the undergrowth. Not one attacker. Several. She risked one glance. 4 masked hunters pursued her. Each wore black armor. None carried a pack insignia. Professional assassins. Her heart pounded. She had no wolf bond to strengthen her speed anymore. The gap began closing. One hunter raised his bow. Another arrow flew. This one grazed her shoulder. Pain exploded through her arm. She stumbled. A rocky slope appeared ahead.
Too steep to climb.
Too dangerous to descend. The hunters slowed. They smiled beneath their masks. Vivian realized she had nowhere left to run. One stepped forward and drew a curved blade. Orders were simple. His voice was cold. No witnesses. Vivian backed toward the cliff's edge. The wind roared below. If she jumped, she might die. If she stayed, she certainly would. The hunter lifted his sword. Then, a deafening wolf roar shook the entire valley. Every bird burst from the trees. The attackers froze. Their faces filled with alarm. One whispered, "Impossible." A massive silver wolf exploded from the forest, landing directly between Vivian and the assassins. Its golden eyes burned with terrifying authority. Every hunter instinctively took a step backward. The enormous wolf bared its teeth. Not as a warning, as a promise. The giant silver wolf shifted into human form. Vivian stared in disbelief. Because standing between her and the assassins was the last person she ever expected to risk his life for her. Former Alpha Dominic Blackwood. The forest fell silent. Even the wind seemed to retreat. Dominic stood between Vivian and the assassins, his broad shoulders blocking their path. Although he had stepped down as Alpha years ago, the strength radiating from him was unmistakable. His silver hair stirred in the breeze. His golden eyes never left the 4 masked killers. "You've made a terrible mistake," he said evenly. The leader laughed. "We're only following orders."
Whose orders?
"You already know." Dominic's expression remained calm. "I'd like to hear you say it." The assassin tightened his grip on his sword. "We weren't paid to answer questions."
No.
Dominic nodded once. "You were paid to die." The words had barely left his mouth before the assassin lunged. His blade sliced through empty air. Dominic had already moved. A single strike to the man's wrist sent the sword flying. Before anyone could react, Dominic drove his elbow into the assassin's chest. Bones cracked. The man collapsed, gasping for breath. The remaining 3 attacked together. Steel flashed beneath the morning sun. Vivian had never seen anyone move like this. Dominic wasn't fighting with rage. He was fighting with precision. Every movement was deliberate. Every strike ended a threat. One attacker swung from the left. Dominic caught the blade with a reinforced leather guard, twisted the man's arm, and threw him into a tree. The third rushed from behind. Dominic spun, driving a powerful kick into the attacker's ribs. The fourth drew a crossbow. Vivian saw it first. Behind you. Dominic turned just as the bolt flew. He couldn't avoid it completely. The bolt tore through his upper arm. Blood stained his sleeve. The assassin smiled. You're getting old. Dominic broke the shaft without flinching. I've heard that before. He charged. The crossbow never fired again. Moments later, the forest became quiet once more. 3 assassins lay unconscious. The fourth had disappeared into the trees. Dominic didn't chase him. He'll carry a message. Vivian hurried to his side. You're bleeding. It isn't serious. It went straight through your arm. I've survived worse. She tore a strip from her cloak. Hold still. Dominic watched her wrap the wound. Despite everything she had suffered, she was helping him. You should hate this family, he said. Vivian didn't stop tying the bandage. I don't hate everyone because of one person's choices. Dominic studied her in silence. The moon goddess truly had chosen well. Several miles away, the surviving assassin reached a hidden cabin. He pushed open the door. Celeste was waiting. You failed. He protected her. Celeste's face darkened. Who? The man swallowed. The former alpha. For the first time, genuine fear crossed Celeste's face. So he's already involved. He defeated 4 of us alone. She paced across the room. No. She whispered. This is happening too quickly. The assassin frowned. What now? Celeste stopped. Her eyes became cold. If Dominic won't stop searching, she looked directly at the man. We'll make sure he finds something else to worry about. Back at Blackstone Keep, news of the attack spread rapidly. Servants whispered in every hallway. The former Alpha fought assassins. Someone tried to kill Vivian. Who would do that? The council demanded answers. Tristan demanded answers. He stormed into the council chamber. What happened? Rowan answered first. Vivian was ambushed outside the western forest. Is she alive? The question escaped before Tristan realized he'd asked it. Rowan noticed. So you do still care? Tristan looked away. I asked about a member of my pack. Did you? Before Tristan could answer, Dominic entered. The room fell silent. His bandaged arm immediately drew attention. You were injured, Tristan said. It's nothing. What happened? Dominic's gaze locked onto his son. Someone tried to murder Vivian. I heard.
No.
Dominic took another step. You heard rumors. I watched trained assassins hunt an unarmed woman. Tristan's jaw tightened. Who sent them? I was hoping you'd tell me. Shock flashed across Tristan's face. You think I ordered it? I think someone benefits if she's dead. The accusation lingered in the room. Every elder watched carefully. Tristan's anger flared. I rejected her. Yes. I never wished her dead. Dominic searched his son's face. For a brief moment, he believed him. Tristan looked furious, confused, even offended. None of those emotions resembled a murder, which meant someone else had moved without his knowledge. That realization was somehow even more dangerous. Later that afternoon, Vivian rested inside the healer's cottage. Her shoulder had been cleaned and stitched. The village healer, Nora, placed fresh herbs over the wound. You were lucky. Vivian smiled faintly. I don't feel lucky. Nora chuckled. You're alive. I suppose that's true. The older woman hesitated before speaking again. Can I ask something? Vivian nodded. When the assassins cornered you, were you afraid? Vivian looked out the window. Yes. More than when Tristan rejected you? Vivian was quiet for a long time. Finally,
No.
Nora looked surprised. Vivian continued. When those men chased me, I wanted to survive. But when Tristan rejected me, she pressed a hand against her chest. I wasn't sure I wanted to. The room fell silent. Nora reached across the table and gently squeezed her hand. You'll find a reason. Vivian gave a sad smile. I hope you're right. That evening, Dominic returned to the hidden library. This time he searched a locked cabinet. Inside rested a small wooden chest. He unlocked it with an old silver key. The lid creaked open. There were only 3 items inside: an ancient royal seal, a faded portrait, and a letter. The portrait showed a young woman standing beneath a full moon. Long black hair, silver eyes, a gentle smile. Dominic stared at it. The resemblance stole his breath. She looked almost exactly like Vivian, only older. He picked up the letter. The wax seal had never been broken. His hands hesitated. He had promised never to read it unless the royal bloodline returned. Slowly, he opened it. His eyes moved across the first lines. Then he stopped breathing. The letter began with only one sentence. If you are reading this, my daughter has survived, and the man who betrayed us has finally made his move. Dominic's hands trembled. His worst fear had just become reality. As Dominic continued reading, one name appeared over and over again. He whispered it in disbelief, then looked toward the Alpha's residence. Because the letter claimed the architect of the entire conspiracy wasn't a stranger. It was someone living inside Blackstone Keep. Dominic read the letter again, then a third time. The handwriting belonged to Queen Alara, the last royal Luna. He recognized it instantly. Years ago, she had entrusted him with guarding a secret if the kingdom ever fell. At the time, he believed the warning would never be needed. Now it lay open in his trembling hands. The letter didn't accuse anyone directly. Instead, it described a conspiracy that had spread through powerful packs long before Vivian was born. A conspiracy built on one purpose: erase the first Luna's bloodline, destroy every heir, leave no witness alive. Dominic's eyes stopped on one paragraph. When our enemies realize my child escaped, they will not attack with armies. They will hide behind marriages, alliances, and trusted faces. His breathing slowed. Trusted faces. That explained everything. The enemy hadn't arrived with swords. They had entered Blackstone as honored guests. At sunrise, Dominic requested an emergency council meeting. Every elder attended. So did Tristan. Celeste arrived moments later, dressed in elegant white. She smiled as though nothing had happened. Dominic remained standing. I have a question. The room grew still. He looked directly at the council. Who approved Lady Celeste's permanent residence inside Blackstone Keep? The elders exchanged uncertain glances. Finally, Elder Magnus answered. Alpha Tristan did. Dominic nodded. And before that, no formal investigation was conducted. A murmur spread across the chamber. Dominic's voice hardened. So the future Luna of this pack entered our home without a complete background inquiry. Celeste's smile faded slightly. Former Alpha, are you questioning my character? I'm questioning everyone's judgment. Tristan stepped forward. Enough. Dominic turned to him.
No.
You've embarrassed her enough. I haven't even started. The room fell silent. Dominic's gaze shifted back to Celeste. Where were you yesterday morning? She answered without hesitation. In my chambers. Can anyone confirm that? My maid. Anyone else? She hesitated. Only for a heartbeat. It was enough. Dominic noticed. So did Elder Magnus. Celeste recovered quickly. I don't appreciate being interrogated. Dominic folded his arms. Neither do innocent people who are hunted through forests. Tristan slammed his hand against the council table. That's enough. His voice echoed through the chamber. No one will accuse my future Luna without proof. Dominic looked at his son with quiet disappointment. I wasn't accusing.
He paused.
I was observing. After the meeting ended, Elder Magnus caught up with Dominic. You've stirred the nest. It needed stirring. Magnus lowered his voice. You found something. I found many things. Enough to expose her? Not yet. Magnus sighed. Then be careful. Dominic frowned. Why? Because desperate people don't make careful decisions. Meanwhile, Vivian decided she couldn't remain hidden forever. She gathered her belongings and left the healer's cottage. As she crossed the village square, conversation stopped. People looked away. Some looked ashamed. Others simply watched. A little girl suddenly broke free from her mother's hand. She ran straight toward Vivian. The child's tiny arms wrapped around her waist. "I'm glad you're alive." Vivian smiled for the first time in days. "So am I." The girl's mother hurried over. "I'm sorry. She shouldn't bother you." Vivian knelt beside the little girl. "What's your name?" "Lily." "Thank you, Lily." The little girl reached into her pocket. "I made this." She handed Vivian a tiny wolf carved from wood. "My father says heroes are lonely." Vivian blinked. "I'm not a hero." Lily shook her head. "You stood back up after everyone knocked you down." Her innocent words struck every adult standing nearby. Several lowered their heads. One elderly woman stepped forward. Then another. Within moments, villagers began approaching Vivian. Not with judgment, with regret. An old blacksmith spoke first. "We should have defended you." A baker nodded. "We were afraid." Vivian looked around at the familiar faces. Yesterday, they had abandoned her. Today, they looked genuinely ashamed. "I can't change what happened," she said softly. "But neither can you." Silence followed. Then she added, "We decide what happens next." The words spread through the crowd. One by one, people straightened their shoulders. Something had shifted. Not in politics. In hearts. High above the village. From the balcony of the Alpha's residence, Celeste watched everything. Her jaw tightened. "They're turning back to her." Her maid nodded nervously. "What should we do?" Celeste's eyes darkened. If people love her, they must learn to fear her. She reached into a hidden compartment beneath her dressing table. This time she removed a small black crystal. Unlike the potions, this object pulsed with strange energy. She whispered an ancient phrase. The crystal glowed. A smoky figure slowly appeared before her. It had no face, only burning red eyes. "I require another favor." The shadow spoke in a hollow voice. "The price increases." "I'll pay it." "What do you seek?" Celeste looked toward the village below. "Before tomorrow ends." "I want Vivian accused of a crime she cannot escape." The shadow vanished, leaving only cold air behind. That evening, Dominic rode alone toward the abandoned Moon Temple. Very few wolves remembered the place. Fewer still knew what rested beneath it. He descended worn stone steps into a hidden chamber. Moonlight poured through a crack in the ceiling. At the center stood an ancient stone pedestal. Upon it rested a weathered book bound in silver leather. The Book of Sacred Bonds. Only 3 people in history had been permitted to read it. Dominic placed his hand upon the cover. The pages opened by themselves. As though recognizing him, he turned carefully until he reached the chapter written in the oldest language. His eyes widened. There it was. The passage his grandfather had once mentioned. He read every word. Once.
Twice.
Then he closed the book and stepped backward. "No." His voice cracked. "This cannot be." Everything suddenly made sense. The glowing altar. The awakening crest. Vivian's resemblance to Queen Alara. Even the assassination attempt. But one final sentence shattered everything he believed. According to the oldest law written by the moon goddess herself, a rejected heir of the first Luna could never remain mateless. If her destined mate rejected her through pride, greed, or deception, the sacred bond would pass, not to another stranger, but to the highest-ranking unmated guardian capable of protecting the royal bloodline. Dominic's face turned pale. There was only one wolf in Blackstone who met every condition. Him. His pulse thundered. "No," he whispered again. "The moon goddess." His voice faded. "Has chosen me." At that exact moment, a brilliant silver light erupted from the pages. The ancient mating mark burned across Dominic's chest. He staggered backward in shock. Miles away, Vivian cried out and clutched the same place over her heart. A matching silver mark appeared beneath her collarbone. Neither of them understood what had just happened. But somewhere deep inside, 2 wolves recognized each other. Dominic stared at the glowing mark on his chest in disbelief. Then he whispered the one truth he had spent decades praying would never become reality. The moon goddess has claimed Vivian as my fated Luna. Vivian collapsed to one knee. A wave of warmth spread through her body, replacing the emptiness left by Tristan's rejection. It wasn't the overwhelming pull of a completed mate bond. It was quieter, steadier, like moonlight warming frozen ground. Her wolf, silent since the rejection, suddenly stirred. I can feel him. Vivian pressed a trembling hand against the glowing mark beneath her collarbone.
Who?
Her wolf didn't answer. Instead, a feeling washed over her. Safety, strength, protection. For the first time in days, she didn't feel alone. Miles away, beneath the ruined moon temple, Dominic stared at the glowing mark across his chest. He had spent his entire life honoring the moon goddess. Never once had he questioned her judgment. Yet this was beyond anything he could have imagined. He was old enough to be Tristan's father. He had watched Vivian grow from a frightened little girl into a courageous young woman. He had never looked at her with romantic intention. Never. He closed the sacred book and bowed his head. There must be another way. The chamber remained silent. No voice answered. Only the silver light continued to shine. Then the pages turned by themselves. A new sentence appeared where blank parchment had rested only moments earlier. A true guardian does not choose the bond. He chooses whether he is worthy of it. Dominic exhaled slowly. The moon goddess had spoken. Not with a voice.
With law.
As the sun disappeared beyond the mountains, Tristan wandered through the empty training grounds. He couldn't explain the unease growing inside him. Ever since the council meeting, his wolf had become restless. Something was changing. He could feel it. Rowan approached carrying 2 practice swords. You've been avoiding everyone. I needed time. To think. To remember. Rowan handed him one of the swords. Then fight. Steel rang through the evening air. The 2 lifelong friends exchanged measured blows. Neither spoke. Not until Rowan disarmed Tristan with a clean strike. The sword landed several feet away. Rowan stared at him. You've never lost to me. I wasn't focused.
No.
Rowan shook his head. You weren't listening. To what? Your wolf. Tristan frowned. My wolf says nothing. Exactly. Those words lingered between them. A healthy wolf never remained silent. Unless something had severed the natural balance. Inside her chambers, Celeste paced furiously. The shadow spirit had returned. The villagers are no longer divided. I know. They're beginning to admire her. Celeste clenched her fists. I gave you an order. And I fulfilled my part. A cold breeze swept across the room. The accusation has already begun. What accusation? The shadow's red eyes flickered. By dawn, every pack will believe Vivian murdered the royal high seer. Celeste froze. Then she smiled. A slow, satisfied smile. No one will defend a woman accused of killing the moon goddess' greatest servant. The shadow faded into darkness. At that same moment, a royal carriage entered Blackstone territory. Its horses stopped outside the western gate. The guards rushed forward. State your business. The elderly driver climbed down. We travel under the authority of the sacred moon court. The guards immediately bowed. Where is the high seer? The driver's face fell. We've lost contact with her. When? She should have arrived before sunset. The guards exchanged worried glances. No one realized. The high seer had never reached Blackstone. Near midnight, Vivian couldn't sleep. The strange warmth inside her refused to fade. She stepped outside beneath the full moon. The entire village rested in silence. She walked without thinking, almost as if something guided her footsteps. Listen. She reached the old moon altar, the same place where Tristan had rejected her. She stared at the ancient stones. So much changed here. A gentle breeze brushed against her hair. Then, the silver crest beneath the altar glowed once again. This time it wasn't hidden. The markings spread across the stone in brilliant light. Vivian stepped back in surprise. Before she could react, a voice spoke behind her. You came. She turned. Dominic stood at the edge of the clearing. His expression was calm, yet his eyes carried the weight of a lifetime. You felt it too? Vivian slowly nodded. I don't understand what's happening. Neither did I. He walked toward the altar. The silver markings brightened with every step he took. When he finally stood beside her, both glowing marks responded. A beam of moonlight descended from the clouds. It surrounded them. Neither could move. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, the ancient altar awakened completely. Stone wolves carved centuries earlier lowered their heads. Every torch around the clearing ignited without fire. The earth trembled. Dominic looked at Vivian. I'm going to tell you something. She searched his face. What is it? It may change your life forever. She nodded. I've already lost everything. I don't think you have. He drew a slow breath. The moon goddess has chosen a new bond. Vivian's heartbeat quickened. What bond? Dominic looked directly into her eyes. Before he could answer, a horn echoed across Blackstone Keep. Then another. War horns. Guards shouted from the walls. Open the gates. Royal messengers. They're carrying an emergency decree. Within minutes, riders thundered into the courtyard. The lead messenger unrolled a scroll bearing the sacred Moon Court seal. His voice echoed through the fortress. By order of the sacred Moon Court. He paused. The entire keep fell silent. The High Seer has been found dead. Gasps erupted everywhere. The messenger continued. The prime suspect. He looked down at the seal. Is Vivian Ashwood. Every eye turned toward her. Even Tristan stared in disbelief. Vivian felt the world tilt beneath her feet. She had never even met the High Seer. Then why? Why was her name on the decree? As soldiers began surrounding the altar, Dominic stepped in front of Vivian. His voice thundered across the courtyard. No one touches her. The captain of the royal guard slowly drew a sword. Stand aside. Dominic didn't move. I said. His wolf surged beneath his skin. No one touches her. The captain raised the royal arrest warrant. Then his eyes fell on the glowing silver mark across Dominic's chest. His face turned completely white, because he recognized the ancient symbol immediately, and he whispered the words that left the entire courtyard in stunned silence. The Guardian's mate mark. That's impossible. The captain's sword slowly lowered. His eyes remained fixed on the glowing silver mark across Dominic's chest. No, he whispered. It cannot be. Every royal guard behind him leaned forward. One after another, they noticed the same mark. Confusion spread through their ranks. Tristan frowned. What are you talking about? The captain turned toward him. You've never seen it? Seen what? The Guardian's mate mark. A heavy silence settled over the courtyard. Even the wind seemed to stop. Elder Magnus closed his eyes. So, it truly happened. Tristan looked from Dominic to Vivian, then back again. What is everyone hiding? Dominic finally spoke. The truth. What truth? The one your pride refused to let you see. Tristan's jaw tightened. Speak plainly. You rejected the woman chosen by the moon goddess. I know what I did. No. Dominic's voice remained calm. You know what you intended. You don't know what your choice awakened. The captain stepped forward. According to sacred law, he swallowed. If a rightful heir carrying the first Luna's blood is rejected through deception, selfish ambition, or manipulation, he looked directly at Vivian. The moon goddess transfers her protection to the highest guardian worthy of carrying it. Tristan stared at Dominic, then at the glowing mark on Vivian's collarbone. No. His voice cracked. No. For the first time since the ceremony, his wolf howled. Not with anger, with unbearable loss. The truth struck like lightning. He hadn't merely rejected his mate. He had rejected the future the moon goddess intended for him. Before anyone could speak again, another voice echoed through the courtyard. Enough. Everyone turned. The royal carriage doors opened. An elderly woman stepped out slowly. The entire courtyard gasped. The High Seer. The messenger stumbled backward. But we found your body. The woman smiled sadly. No. You found someone dressed in my robes. The courtyard erupted. She's alive. Then who died? The accusation was false. The High Seer climbed the stone steps without hurry. Her silver eyes settled on Vivian. So, I finally found you. Vivian blinked. Me? The High Seer nodded. I've been searching for 25 years. Celeste felt her pulse race. Something had gone terribly wrong. The High Seer was supposed to be dead. She slowly stepped backward. One step, then another. The High Seer's gaze shifted toward her. Leaving already? Celeste forced a smile. I don't understand. I believe you do. The old woman raised one hand. 2 royal guards immediately blocked the exit. Celeste's confidence began to crack. You have no proof. The High Seer nodded. You're right. I don't. She smiled gently. But someone else does. Every head turned. A familiar voice answered from the crowd. I do. Mira stepped forward. She was shaking, yet her eyes remained steady. I saw her. Celeste's expression froze. I saw her meeting masked men outside the western forest. Gasps echoed around the courtyard. Celeste laughed nervously. A desperate lie. Mira didn't flinch. I followed you. You paid the assassins. You poisoned Alpha Tristan's judgment. You planned Vivian's murder. Each sentence landed harder than the last. Celeste looked toward Tristan. Don't listen to her. He didn't answer. For the first time, he was remembering. Fragments flooded his mind. The blue drinks, the strange headaches, the missing memories, the growing distance from Vivian that had never made sense. His knees nearly gave way. What? He whispered. Did you do to me? Celeste reached for his hand. He stepped back. No. His voice broke. Don't touch me. Dominic reached into his cloak. He removed the unopened letter written by Queen Alara. This belongs to the Sacred Moon Court. The High Seer accepted it. She read silently. When she finished, she closed her eyes. The Queen knew. Dominic nodded. She entrusted me with protecting her daughter if she ever returned. The High Seer walked toward Vivian. Then, to everyone's astonishment, she bowed. Every royal guard immediately followed. Every elder bowed. One by one, the entire courtyard lowered their heads. Only Tristan remained frozen. The High Seer's voice carried across Blackstone. Vivian Ashwood. She smiled warmly. You are the last living descendant of Queen Alara and the First Luna's royal bloodline. Tears filled Vivian's eyes. My mother protected you with her life. Everything finally made sense. The years of hiding, the constant moving, the unanswered questions. Her mother hadn't been running from fate. She had been protecting it. Tristan slowly walked toward Vivian. His face was pale. His eyes were filled with regret. His voice failed. He tried again. I'm sorry. Vivian looked at him quietly. The silence hurt him more than anger ever could. I was manipulated. I know. I never meant. I know. Hope flickered inside him. You forgive me? Vivian smiled sadly. I've forgiven you. Relief washed over him. Then she finished. But forgiveness isn't the same as returning. The hope disappeared. You are the love of my past. She placed a gentle hand over the glowing mark on her collarbone. But the moon goddess has already written my future. Tristan closed his eyes. He finally understood. Some losses could never be undone. The High Seer turned toward Dominic. The sacred law requires only one question. Dominic nodded respectfully. She looked into his eyes. Will you accept the duty the moon goddess has placed upon you? Dominic never looked away from Vivian. His answer came without hesitation. I will spend the rest of my life protecting her. Not possessing her. Not controlling her. Protecting her. Vivian's wolf purred peacefully. For the first time, the bond felt right. Not because it was born from passion, but because it was built on honor, trust, and choice. The silver marks glowed once more, then slowly faded. The moon goddess had witnessed their vow. 1 year later, Blackstone Keep had changed. Tristan voluntarily stepped down as Alpha, believing the pack deserved a leader whose judgment had never been compromised. Rowan was elected as the new Alpha with the unanimous support of the elders and the people. Celeste was tried before the Sacred Moon Court for conspiracy, attempted murder, and the use of forbidden potions. She lost her titles and was sentenced to spend the remainder of her life in exile beyond the Northern Territories, where she could never again influence the affairs of any pack. Vivian restored the Forgotten Moon Temple and established a sanctuary where abandoned wolves, orphaned children, and rejected mates could find safety without fear or shame. Dominic stood beside her, not as a ruler above her, but as the guardian the moon goddess had chosen. Together, they rebuilt trust between the packs and ended the decades-long hunt for the royal bloodline. The people no longer remembered Vivian as the young woman humiliated before the moon altar. They remembered her as the Luna who transformed pain into hope. And every year, on the anniversary of her rejection, wolves gathered beneath the full moon to remember one lesson that would never be forgotten. The greatest mistake an alpha can make is believing that power gives him the right to reject the destiny the moon goddess has chosen. If you enjoyed this story and want more unforgettable alpha and Luna romances filled with shocking twists, powerful heroines, and satisfying endings, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with fellow werewolf romance fans, and leave a comment telling us which moment surprised you the most. Your support helps bring more stories like this to life.